The rain hammered down on Interstate 35 like thousands of tiny fists against metal and asphalt. Maria Gonzalez gripped the steering wheel of her 2008 Honda Civic, watching the dashboard lights flicker ominously as she merged onto the highway. It was 4:47 p.m. on a Thursday in late October, and she was already running 15 minutes late to pick up her kids from after-school care. The sky over Austin had turned an angry shade of charcoal gray, the kind of storm that rolls in fast from the hill country and turns roads into rivers within minutes. Maria's windshield wipers were working overtime, squeaking frantically as they struggled to clear the sheets of water cascading down the glass. Through the blur, she could barely make out the taillights of the car ahead of her. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder. She didn't need to look to know it was probably the after-school program calling again. They charged $1 per minute after 5 p.m., and Maria couldn't afford another late fee. Not this month. Not after the medical bills from her son's emergency room visit last week, when he'd fallen off the monkey bars and needed stitches. "Come on, come on," she muttered to the car, pressing the gas pedal gently. The engine responded with a concerning sputter, but kept going. She just needed to make it to Oakwood Elementary, pick up 7-year-old Diego and 9-year-old Sophia, get them home, make dinner, help with homework, give baths, and maybe, if she was lucky, collapse into bed by 10 before her overnight shift at the hospital started at 11. Maria had been working as a medical records clerk at St. David's Medical Center for 3 years, ever since her husband Roberto had left. He'd walked out on a Tuesday morning, leaving nothing but a note on the kitchen counter that said he needed to find himself. He'd found himself in Colorado with a woman he'd met online, but he hadn't found his way to sending child support checks with any regularity. The Civic coughed. Then it coughed again, more violently this time. Maria's heart sank as she felt the engine losing power. The RPM needle dropped suddenly, and no matter how hard she pressed the accelerator, the car was slowing down. "No, no, no, please no," she begged. But the universe wasn't listening. The engine gave one final shudder and died completely. Maria managed to coast onto the shoulder, her hazard lights automatically flickering on as the car rolled to a stop about 50 yards from the Riverside Drive exit. She sat there for a moment in stunned silence, listening to the rain drum against the roof. Then she tried the ignition. Nothing. Not even the clicking sound of a dead battery. Just absolute, terrifying silence except for the storm. Maria grabbed her phone. The battery indicator showed 11%. She had maybe 20 minutes before it died completely. Her hands shook as she called the after-school program first. "Oakwood Extended Care. This is Jennifer." "Hi, this is Maria Gonzalez, Diego and Sophia's mom. I'm so sorry, but my car broke down on the highway. I'm going to be late. I don't know how late. Can you please tell them I'm coming? Please don't let them worry." Jennifer's voice was sympathetic but firm. "Of course, Mrs. Gonzalez. But you know our policy about pickup times." I know. I'll pay the late fees. I just need you to know I'm trying to get there." After she hung up, Maria stared at her phone. Who could she call? Her mother lived in San Antonio, 2 hours away. Her sister was on a business trip in Dallas. She had work friends, but they all lived on the other side of town, and asking someone to drive out in this storm felt like too much. She could call a tow truck, but her roadside assistance had lapsed 3 months ago when she'd had to choose between that payment and keeping the electricity on. A tow would cost at least $150, money she absolutely did not have. Her next paycheck wasn't until next Friday, and after rent, utilities, and groceries, there was never much left over anyway. Maria put her head on the steering wheel and felt hot tears mixing with the cold fear in her chest. This was exactly the kind of emergency that broke people like her. People who were already hanging on by their fingernails, one unexpected expense away from catastrophe. Through the rain-streaked window, she watched cars zoom past, their tires sending up plumes of spray. Nobody was stopping. Why would they? It was a terrible storm, visibility was awful, and everyone was trying to get home safely. She was just another broken-down car on the side of the highway, invisible in the chaos of the weather. Her phone buzzed again. 8% battery. She needed to conserve it in case of a real emergency. Maria turned off her data and dimmed the screen. Then she did something she hadn't done in a long time. She closed her eyes and prayed. "Please," she whispered. "I know I don't ask for much. I know I'm supposed to handle things on my own. But please, just this once, send me some help. My kids need me. Please." She opened her eyes and saw headlights pulling up behind her. For a moment, hope flared in her chest, but then she tensed. Horror stories flashed through her mind. Stories about women stranded on highways, about predators who looked for vulnerable people in exactly these situations. She checked that her doors were locked. A figure got out of the car behind her, just a dark shape in the rain. Then there was a knock on her window. Maria jumped, her heart hammering. Through the water streaming down the glass, she could make out a young face, maybe early 20s, with water already plastering dark hair to his forehead. He made a rolling motion with his hand, asking her to lower the window. Maria cracked it about 2 inches, just enough to hear him over the storm. "Ma'am, you okay?" "Car trouble." He had to shout to be heard over the rain and traffic. "Yes, it just died," Maria called back. "I can't get it started." "Pop the hood. Let me take a look." Maria hesitated for only a second before pulling the hood release. She watched in her side mirror as the young man, really just a kid, she thought, pushed the hood up and bent over the engine. Rain pounded down on his back as he leaned in, his clothes already soaked through. After a few minutes, he came back to her window, water dripping from his nose and chin. "Do you have a toolbox or anything? I think I see the problem, but I need some tools." "I'm sorry," Maria said, feeling helpless. "Okay, hold on." He ran back to his car, an old Toyota Corolla that looked like it had seen better days, and returned with a small red toolbox. Then he disappeared under her hood again. Maria sat there, watching the stranger work on her car in the pouring rain. She checked her phone. 5% battery. It was 5:03 p.m. She tried to see what he was doing, but all she could make out was his back and his arms moving as he worked. 15 minutes passed, then 30. The rain showed no signs of letting up. Maria's phone died at 5:34 p.m. She felt tears building again, but this time they were different. This young man, whoever he was still out there getting drenched, trying to help her. He could have just driven past like everyone else. He could have called someone for her and left, but he was staying. At 5:47 p.m., there was another knock on her window. She opened it. "Try it now," he yelled. Maria turned the key, and the engine turned over. Once, twice, then caught. The beautiful sound of her car running filled the air. She let out a sob of relief. The young man appeared at her window again, soaking wet but grinning. "Your alternator was loose and your battery cables were corroded. I tightened everything up and cleaned the connections. It should get you where you need to go." "Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you so much," Maria said, crying openly now. "Please, I need to get your information. I need to pay you back somehow." He waved his hand dismissively. "No, ma'am, it's fine. I'm just glad I could help. You should get going before this storm gets worse." No, please at least give me your name. A phone number. Something. He was already backing away toward his car. Really, it's okay. Just pay it forward someday. Drive safe. Before Maria could protest further, he jogged back to his Corolla, got in, and pulled away into traffic. She sat there for a moment, stunned, watching his taillights disappear into the rain. Then she remembered her kids. Maria carefully merged back onto the highway and drove as fast as she dared to Oakwood Elementary. She arrived at 6:12 p.m., which meant she owed $42 in late fees. When she walked into the extended care room, Diego and Sophia ran to her, throwing their arms around her waist. "Mommy, Miss Jennifer said your car broke," Sophia said, her eyes wide with worry. "It did, baby, but a very kind person helped me fix it. Let's go home." As she drove home with her kids chattering in the back seat about their day, Maria couldn't stop thinking about that young man. She'd been so flustered, so focused on getting to her children, that she hadn't even gotten his name. But she remembered his face. Dark eyes, kind smile, completely soaked to the bone but still grinning when he got her car started. That night, after the kids were in bed and she was getting ready for her shift at the hospital, Maria made herself a promise. If she ever saw that young man again, she would find a way to thank him properly. She would find a way to pay back the kindness he'd shown a desperate stranger on a rainy highway. She had no idea that fate would give her that chance sooner than she thought. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Have you ever been helped by a stranger when you needed it most? Share your story with us. Maria's position at St. David's Medical Center wasn't glamorous, but it had one significant perk: tuition benefits. After 2 years of employment, staff members could take up to 2 courses per semester at participating universities at a significant discount. Maria had been slowly chipping away at her bachelor's degree in healthcare administration, taking one class at a time, fitting homework in between her kids' schedules and her work shifts. But what most people at the hospital didn't know was that Maria also had a part-time position. 3 mornings a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, she worked in the admissions office at the University of Texas at Austin. She'd started there 2 years ago, processing applications, answering phones, and helping prospective students navigate the complicated world of college admissions. It was exhausting, working essentially 2 jobs while raising 2 kids alone, but the extra income meant Diego could stay in soccer and Sophia could take her beloved piano lessons. It meant they had a decent apartment in a safe neighborhood. It meant Maria was slowly building something better for them, one day at a time. The Tuesday after the highway incident, Maria was at her desk in the admissions office, reviewing a stack of appeal letters. These were from students who had been denied admission and were making a case for why the university should reconsider. It was often heartbreaking work. So many bright, deserving kids, and not enough spaces for all of them. She was halfway through a letter from a student explaining how family circumstances had affected their grades when her supervisor, Patricia Chun, stopped by her desk. "Maria, I need you to sit in on some admission appeals hearings this afternoon. Karen called in sick, and we need someone to take notes. Can you handle that?" "Of course," Maria said, setting aside her current work. The appeals hearings were held in a small conference room on the 3rd floor. There was a panel of 3 admissions officers who would listen to students make their cases in person, asking questions and reviewing their files. Maria's job was to sit off to the side and document everything. The first 2 appeals were for students who had been denied due to low test scores. One was an athlete who made a compelling case about learning disabilities and how they'd overcome them. The other was an international student whose English had improved dramatically since taking the SAT, Maria typed diligently, capturing every word. Then the third student walked in, and Maria's hands froze over her keyboard. It was him, the young man from the highway. He was wearing khakis and a button-down shirt that was slightly too big for him, his dark hair neatly combed. He looked nervous, clutching a folder against his chest. His eyes scanned the panel of admissions officers, and then briefly landed on Maria in the corner. There was no recognition in his gaze, just the fear and hope that every appeals student brought into this room. Maria's heart was pounding. She forced herself to focus, to be professional, to take notes like she was supposed to. "Please have a seat," said Dr. Richardson, the head of the panel. "You're Tyler Morales, correct?" "Yes, sir." His voice was quieter than it had been on the highway, when he'd had to shout over the storm. "This is your second appeal, Tyler. You were denied admission for the fall semester last year and again for this spring. Can you tell us why you believe we should reconsider?" Tyler took a deep breath. "I know my grades aren't perfect. I had a 3.2 GPA in high school, and my SAT scores were just above average. On paper, I'm not your typical UT student. But there's context that isn't on my transcript." He opened his folder and pulled out some papers. "My mom got sick when I was a sophomore. Cancer. She's okay now, but she was in treatment for 2 years. My dad works construction, and he was taking all the overtime he could get to pay for medical bills and keep food on the table. That meant I was responsible for my 3 younger siblings, getting them to school, making sure they did homework, cooking dinner, everything." Dr. Richardson nodded. "That's certainly difficult, but many students face challenging family circumstances. What makes your case unique?" "I'm not saying it makes me unique," Tyler said, his voice stronger now. "I'm saying it's why my grades don't tell the whole story of who I am. Despite everything, I graduated. I've been working 2 jobs for the past year and a half, saving money for college. I've taken courses at Austin Community College and gotten A's in all of them." He pulled out more papers. "I have recommendation letters from my professors there. They all say the same thing. I work harder than anyone else in class. I won't give up. When I don't understand something, I stay after. I ask questions. I figure it out." Maria's fingers were moving over the keyboard automatically, but her mind was reeling. This was him, the person who had spent nearly an hour in the pouring rain fixing her car. And now he was here, fighting for a chance at an education. "Tyler, I see here you applied for the engineering program," said Ms. Ellison, another panel member. "That's one of our most competitive programs." "Why engineering?" "Because I like figuring out how things work," Tyler said simply. "I like solving problems. When something's broken, I want to know why and how to fix it. I've been helping my dad with construction work since I was 14. I've learned electrical work, plumbing, basic mechanics. I want to take that hands-on knowledge and combine it with real engineering training." "And if we deny your appeal again?" Dr. Richardson asked. It wasn't cruel, just practical. Tyler's jaw tightened. "Then I'll keep taking classes at ACC. I'll reapply next year. And the year after that if I have to. I'll get here eventually, one way or another. But I'm asking you to give me a chance now. I know I can do this work. I just need someone to let me prove it." The panel asked a few more questions about his finances, his work schedule, his support system. Tyler answered each one honestly, never overselling himself but never backing down either. Maria watched him and saw the same determination she'd witnessed on the highway. This was someone who didn't quit. After 15 minutes, Dr. Richardson thanked Tyler and told him they would notify him of their decision within 2 weeks. Tyler stood, shook hands with the panel members, and walked out. As he passed Maria's desk in the corner, their eyes met for just a second. She saw him try to place her face, a flicker of almost recognition, but then he was gone. The panel deliberated for about 10 minutes after Tyler left. Maria continued taking notes, trying to keep her face neutral. "He's a hard worker, that's clear," Ms. Ellison said. "And the community college grades are impressive. But his high school record is below our standards," countered Mr. Webb, the third panel member. "We have thousands of applicants with better grades and test scores. We also have a mission to serve Texas students who show promise and determination," Dr. Richardson said thoughtfully. "This young man has clearly faced significant obstacles and overcome them. The question is whether he can handle the rigor of our engineering program." They went back and forth. Maria wanted to speak up, wanted to tell them that this wasn't just any applicant. This was someone who had stopped on a dangerous highway in a terrible storm to help a complete stranger. This was someone with the kind of character and integrity that couldn't be measured by test scores. But she couldn't say anything. It wasn't her place. She was just there to take notes. Finally, Dr. Richardson called for a vote. "All in favor of granting Tyler Morales admission for the fall semester?" Ms. Ellison raised her hand. After a long pause, so did Dr. Richardson. "Opposed?" Mr. Webb raised his hand. 2-1. The appeal is granted. Dr. Richardson turned to Maria. "Please make a note that Tyler Morales is admitted to the University of Texas at Austin for the fall semester, pending final transcripts from Austin Community College showing continued academic performance." Maria typed the words, her heart soaring. He'd done it. Tyler had earned his spot through sheer determination and honesty. But she also knew that it had been close. One different vote and he would have been denied again. That evening, Maria couldn't stop thinking about the hearing. She'd gone home after her shift in the admissions office, picked up the kids from school, made dinner, supervised homework. Normal life. But her mind kept returning to Tyler's face when he talked about his mother being sick, about taking care of his siblings, about refusing to give up on his dreams. After the kids were in bed, Maria sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea. She thought about that night on the highway, how terrified she'd been, how helpless, and how this young man, who was barely scraping by himself based on what she'd heard in that hearing, had stopped anyway. I had spent 2 hours getting soaked, had refused payment or even thanks. She thought about the fact that she'd been sitting in that room, watching his future hang in the balance, unable to speak up for him. The decision had been fair. He'd earned that admission on his own merits. But Maria knew something the panel didn't. She knew that Tyler Morales was the kind of person who stopped to help strangers in storms. And that kind of character was worth something. Maria pulled out her laptop and opened the university portal. She searched for Tyler's file and found his contact information. The university would send him an official letter, of course, but that would take days to arrive by mail. She could send him an email now. She started typing, then stopped. What should she say? Should she tell him that she was the woman from the highway? That she'd been in that room? It felt like it might make him uncomfortable, like he might think she'd influenced the decision when she really hadn't. In the end, Maria kept it simple. "Dear Mr. Morales, I am pleased to inform you that your appeal has been granted. The admissions committee was impressed by your determination, your academic improvement, and your clear commitment to your education despite facing significant challenges. Welcome to the University of Texas at Austin. Your official acceptance letter will arrive by mail within the next week. We look forward to seeing you on campus this fall. Sincerely, Maria Gonzalez Admissions Office." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she sat back and smiled. Tyler would get his chance. He would get to prove himself. And maybe, just maybe, his kindness on that rainy highway had started a chain of events that would change his life. What Maria didn't know was that Tyler had been sitting in his small apartment when that email arrived, staring at his phone in disbelief, tears streaming down his face. He'd been so sure the appeal would be denied again. He'd been preparing himself for another year of waiting, another year of working 2 jobs and taking classes at ACC. And he had no idea that the woman who had sent him that email was the same woman whose car he'd fixed on the highway. No idea that sometimes the universe has a way of paying back kindness in unexpected ways. Over the next few months, Maria watched for Tyler on campus. The admissions office was in the main administrative building, and she would sometimes see students walking across the quad during her shifts. She wondered if she'd spot him, maybe heading to class or sitting under one of the big oak trees with a textbook. But the university was huge with over 50,000 students. The chances of randomly running into one specific person were slim. Still, she looked. In June, the university held an orientation session for incoming transfer students and students who had been admitted through appeals. Maria volunteered to help with check-in, partly because she needed the extra hours, partly because she hoped Tyler might be there. She saw him walk into the student union with an older woman who must have been his mother. She had the same dark eyes and warm smile. They were both looking around with expressions of wonder and pride. Tyler was wearing a burnt orange UT t-shirt that looked brand new. Maria was stationed at a check-in table, scanning student IDs and handing out orientation packets. When Tyler approached her table, she smiled professionally. "Name, please." "Tyler Morales." She scanned his ID and handed him a thick folder of information. "Welcome to UT, Tyler. Your orientation group is meeting in Ballroom C at 9 o'clock. "Thank you," he said, taking the folder. Then he paused, looking at her face. "I'm sorry, but have we met before? You look really familiar." Maria's heart skipped a beat. She could tell him now. She could explain everything. But something held her back. This was his day, his triumph. He didn't need to know about the highway or the hearing. He just needed to enjoy this moment. "I don't think so," she said with a gentle smile. "But I see a lot of students. Maybe I just have one of those faces." "Maybe," Tyler said. But he still looked puzzled. His mother touched his arm gently. "Come on, Mijo, we don't want to be late." As they walked away, Tyler's mother said something to him in Spanish, and he laughed. Maria watched them go, feeling a warm satisfaction in her chest. He was here. He'd made it. Whatever happened from here was up to him, but at least he had his chance. The summer has passed. Maria's life continued in its exhausting routine of work, kids, school, and more work. Diego started 3rd grade and Sofia began 5th. Maria's car continued to run, though she knew it was on borrowed time. Every strange noise it made sent a spike of anxiety through her. In September, on a Tuesday morning shift at the admissions office, Maria was processing scholarship applications when Patricia stopped by her desk again. "Maria, do you have a few minutes? I want to talk to you about something." They went into Patricia's office, and Maria sat down, trying not to look nervous. In her experience, being called into a supervisor's office was rarely good news. "I've been really impressed with your work this past year," Patricia said, sitting behind her desk. "You're reliable, detail-oriented, and you have a good instinct for which students are going to succeed here." "Thank you," Maria said cautiously. "We have a position opening up. Assistant Director of Transfer Admissions. It would be full-time with benefits, significantly better pay than what you're making now working part-time here and part-time at the hospital. I'd like you to apply for it." Maria stared at her. "Full-time? But I don't have a bachelor's degree yet. You're close though, right? And we can make completion of your degree a condition of employment. You'd have 2 years to finish it, which is reasonable given you're already more than halfway through. Maria, you're good at this job. You care about these students. That matters more than any degree. Maria felt tears prickling her eyes. A full-time position with real benefits. Better pay. It would mean she could quit the hospital job, which she'd never particularly loved anyway. It would mean better insurance for the kids. Maybe even the ability to save a little money each month instead of always scraping by. I don't know what to say. Say you'll apply. I can't promise you'll get it. We have to post it publicly and consider all candidates. But I wanted you to know I'm going to recommend you strongly. Yes, Maria said, wiping her eyes. Yes, I'll apply. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you so much. That night, after telling Diego and Sofia the news and listening to them cheer, Maria sat at her kitchen table filling out the application. As she wrote about her experience in admissions, about her commitment to helping students access education, she thought about Tyler. She wondered how his first semester was going. She hoped he was doing well. What she didn't know was that at that exact moment, Tyler was in the engineering library, working on a problem set that was due at midnight. He was exhausted. He'd put in a full shift at his campus job that afternoon, but he was determined to get it done. Around him, other students were packing up and leaving, but Tyler stayed. The problem set was about structural load calculations, something he'd never encountered before. He'd been working on one particular problem for over an hour, trying different approaches, checking his work, getting frustrated. Finally, he raised his hand and caught the attention of the teaching assistant who was monitoring the library. I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm stuck on problem 7. I keep getting the wrong answer. The TA, a graduate student named Kevin, came over and looked at Tyler's work. Okay, I see what you're doing wrong. You're using the right formula, but you're not accounting for the distribution of the load. See here. Kevin spent 20 minutes walking Tyler through the problem, showing him not just how to get the right answer but why the approach worked. Tyler listened intently, asking questions, making sure he understood every step. Does that make sense now? Kevin asked finally. Yes, completely. Thank you so much for taking the time. No problem. You ask really good questions. A lot of students just want to know the answer so they can move on, but you actually want to understand the concept. My dad always told me there's no shame in not knowing something, Tyler said. The shame is in not trying to learn. He finished the problem set at 11:47 p.m. and submitted it with 13 minutes to spare. Then he packed up his books, walked out into the warm September night, and headed back to his apartment. He was tired, but it was good. The tiredness that came from working hard at something that mattered. As he walked across campus, Tyler thought about how different his life was now compared to a year ago. A year ago, he'd been working at a warehouse during the day and a restaurant at night, sleeping 5 hours if he was lucky, convinced that college was a dream that would never happen for someone like him. Now he was here. He was a UT student. He was studying engineering. He thought about that night on the highway, the woman whose car he'd fixed. He wondered if she'd made it to wherever she needed to go. He hoped she was okay. Tyler believed in paying things forward, in helping people when you could, even if it cost you something. His parents had taught him that, and he liked to think that maybe his kindness would come back to him someday, in some unexpected way. He had no idea how right he was. In October, Maria learned that she'd gotten the position. Assistant Director of Transfer Admissions, starting in January. She would work full-time at the university, finish her degree within 2 years, and finally be able to provide the kind of stability her kids deserved. When she told Diego and Sofia, They celebrated with ice cream sundaes and a movie night. As Maria sat on the couch with her kids curled up on either side of her, watching some animated film about talking animals, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Real, solid hope for the future. Tyler's first semester continued. He struggled with some concepts, excelled at others. He stayed after class, went to office hours, and formed study groups with other students. Slowly, he built friendships. Slowly, he started to feel like he belonged. In November, Tyler was walking across campus when he saw a flyer for a scholarship opportunity. It was for students who demonstrated both academic merit and a commitment to community service. The application required an essay about a time you helped someone without expectation of reward. Tyler thought about it for a long time. He had plenty of examples: helping his dad with construction work for elderly neighbors, volunteering at his church's food bank, tutoring his younger siblings and their friends. But he kept coming back to that night on the highway. He hadn't told anyone about it because it felt like bragging to talk about helping someone. But this essay wasn't about bragging. It was about explaining why service mattered to him. So he wrote about stopping for a stranded motorist, about spending 2 hours in the rain, about how he'd left without even giving his name because the help itself was the point. He submitted the application and didn't think much more about it. He had finals to worry about, papers to write, exams to study for. December was a blur of all-nighters, caffeine, and determined effort. On December 18th, Tyler finished his last final exam, Calculus 2, and walked out of the testing center into bright winter sunshine. He'd made it. His first semester was complete. Whatever grades he got, he'd done the work. He'd proved to himself that he could handle this. His phone buzzed. An email from the scholarship committee. Tyler's heart raced as he opened it. Dear Mr. Morales, congratulations. You have been selected to receive the Community Impact Scholarship. This merit-based scholarship provides full tuition coverage for your remaining undergraduate years, contingent upon maintaining a 3.0 GPA and completing 40 hours of community service per semester. Tyler read it 3 times before it sank in. Full tuition for the rest of his undergraduate degree. He wouldn't have to work 2 jobs anymore. He could focus on school, maybe even graduate early. He could actually do this. He called his mother, crying happy tears in the middle of campus while students walked past. Mom, I got it. I got a full scholarship. Everything's going to be okay. What Tyler didn't know was that his scholarship application, including that essay about helping a stranger on the highway, would be reviewed by committee members including Maria Gonzalez. And when she read his essay, when she saw his description of fixing a car in the rain for a woman who needed to get to her kids, she would finally have absolute confirmation that this was the same young man who had helped her. But Maria wouldn't influence the decision. She wouldn't need to. Tyler's grades, his essay, his commitment to service, all of it spoke for itself. He earned that scholarship through his own merit. Still, when the votes were tallied and Tyler's name was added to the list of recipients, Maria felt tears in her eyes. Sometimes the universe did pay back kindness. Sometimes doing the right thing when no one was watching led to blessings when you least expected them. And sometimes the person you helped without knowing it would turn out to be in a position to witness your success, to watch from the sidelines as you got everything you deserved. What did you think of this story? Does kindness really come back around? Hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments below what you believe about helping strangers. Maria stood in the university's administrative building in mid-January, her first official day as assistant director of transfer admissions. She had a real office now, small but with a window that looked out over the main quad. On her desk was a photo of Diego and Sofia, and a small plant that Patricia had given her as a congratulations gift. She was reviewing transfer applications when Patricia knocked on her door frame. "Hey, you settling in okay?" "Yes, thank you. Still feels a bit surreal." "You earned it." "Oh, before I forget, we're hosting a reception for scholarship recipients next month. Community impact scholars, specifically. We like to connect them with staff and faculty, help them network. You should come." "I'll be there," Maria said. The reception was held in the Alumni Center on a Friday evening in mid-February. Maria wore her best professional dress and arrived early to help set up. The room gradually filled with scholarship recipients, their families, university staff, and faculty members from various departments. Maria was talking with a professor from the business school when she saw him walk in. Tyler, wearing a shirt and tie, looking nervous and excited. He was with his mother again, and his father this time, a broad-shouldered man with work-worn hands and a proud smile. Maria excused herself and made her way across the room. This was it. She was going to introduce herself properly. She was going to thank him for what he'd done, tell him how much it had meant, and reveal the strange coincidence that had brought them to this moment. But before she could reach him, the program started. A university vice president gave a speech about the importance of community service. Several students shared brief remarks about what the scholarship meant to them. Tyler was one of them. "This scholarship changed my life," he said, standing at a podium in front of 100 people. He looked terrified, but his voice was steady. "I can focus on my studies now instead of working multiple jobs. I can actually enjoy being a student. But more than that, this scholarship told me that the way I try to live my life, helping others when I can, being there for my community, that those things matter, that they're seen and valued." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I grew up watching my parents work incredibly hard. My dad does construction, my mom cleans houses. They taught me that success isn't just about what you achieve for yourself. It's about what you do for others. So I want to use my engineering degree to build things that help people. Infrastructure in underserved communities. Sustainable energy solutions. Things that matter." Maria felt her throat tighten with emotion. This young man, this remarkable young man, was going to change the world. She was sure of it. After the formal program ended, there was a social hour with food and drinks. Maria finally made her way to Tyler. He was standing with his parents near the refreshment table, balancing a plate of appetizers. "Tyler Morales?" Maria said, approaching them. He turned and smiled. "Yes, that's me. I'm Maria Gonzalez. I work in the admissions office. I wanted to congratulate you on your scholarship. That was a wonderful speech. Thank you so much." He shook her hand, and Maria saw the exact moment recognition flickered in his eyes. "Wait, I know you. You were at orientation, right? At the check-in table?" "Yes, that was me. And before that?" Tyler's brow furrowed. "I'm sorry. I know we've met somewhere else, but I can't place it." Maria took a deep breath. "We met on I-35 last October, during that terrible rainstorm. My car broke down, and you stopped to help me." Tyler's eyes went wide. His mother gasped softly. His father's face broke into a huge grin. "That was you," Tyler said. "The woman with the Honda? Who needed to get to her kids? That was me. And I never got to properly thank you. You wouldn't even let me pay you or give you my information. You just fixed my car and left." "I couldn't take money from you," Tyler said. "You were clearly having a rough day. I was just glad I could help." "Tyler," Maria said, her voice shaking slightly, "I need you to understand something. I was in the room when you did your admissions appeal. I was taking notes for the committee, And I sat there watching you fight for your place at this university, and I couldn't say anything. I couldn't tell them that you were the person who had helped me. But I wanted you to know that I saw you. I saw your character, your determination, your kindness. Tyler looked stunned. You were there? In that room? I was. And Tyler, you earned your place here. You earned that scholarship. Not because you helped me, but because you're exactly the kind of student this university needs. But I wanted you to know that your kindness that night didn't go unnoticed. It meant more to me than you could ever know. Tyler's mother stepped forward and pulled Maria into a hug, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for telling us this. Thank you for seeing who my son is. He's going to do incredible things, Maria said. I know it. They talked for another hour, exchanging stories. Maria learned that Tyler's mother had indeed beaten cancer, that his youngest sibling had just started high school, that his father was teaching him about solar panel installation on weekends because Tyler wanted to understand renewable energy systems. Tyler learned that Maria was working on her own degree, that she was raising 2 kids on her own, that she'd been promoted and things were finally starting to look up. He learned that she thought about that night on the highway often, that she'd wanted to find him and thank him but hadn't known how. My abuela always says that God puts people in our paths when we need them most, Tyler said. I think maybe we both needed that night to happen. You needed help, and I needed a reminder that even when things are hard, you keep showing up for people. Your grandmother is a wise woman, Maria said. Before they parted that evening, Maria and Tyler exchanged phone numbers. If you ever need anything, Maria said, academic advice, help navigating university bureaucracy, or just someone to talk to, you call me. Okay? Same to you, Tyler said. If your car ever breaks down again, I'm your guy. They laughed, but there was real affection in it. They'd been strangers who helped each other at the right moment, and now they were something more. Not quite friends, not quite family, but connected by circumstance and kindness. Over the following months, they stayed in touch. Maria would occasionally text Tyler to check how his classes were going. Tyler would send her photos of projects he was working on in his engineering labs. When Diego needed help with a science fair project about simple machines, Tyler came over one Saturday and spent 3 hours helping him build a pulley system. You're really good with kids, Maria observed, watching Tyler patiently explain mechanical advantage to her 7-year-old. I spent years taking care of my siblings, Tyler said with a shrug. You learn to make things fun and simple. In April, Tyler invited Maria and her kids to the Engineering Expo, where students displayed their semester projects. Tyler's team had designed a water filtration system for use in rural areas without electricity. It was elegant and practical, and Tyler explained every detail to Sophia and Diego with enthusiasm. When I graduate, he told them, I want to work on projects like this. Things that help people who don't have access to clean water or electricity or good infrastructure. That's really cool, Sophia said seriously. She was 10 now, thoughtful and observant like her mother. You're going to help a lot of people. I'm going to try, Tyler said. That summer, Maria finished her bachelor's degree. It had taken her 6 years of part-time classes, stolen hours between work shifts and parenting duties, but she'd done it. At her graduation ceremony, Tyler was there in the audience with Diego and Sophia, cheering louder than anyone when her name was called. Afterward, as they took photos on the lawn, Tyler's mother appeared with a huge bouquet of flowers. I hope you don't mind, she said. Tyler told us about your graduation, and I wanted to be here. You've been so kind to my son. He was kind to me first, Maria said, accepting the flowers with tears in her eyes. This has all come full circle in the most beautiful way. They all went out for lunch together, Maria, her kids, Tyler, and his parents. Over enchiladas and laughter, they swapped stories and made plans for the future. Tyler was thinking about graduate school. Maria was considering pursuing a master's degree eventually. Diego wanted to be an astronaut. Sophia was teaching herself guitar. You know, Tyler's father said in his accented English, my wife always tells me that what you give to the universe comes back to you. I never really understood it until now. My son helps a stranger, and that stranger turns out to be someone who can witness his success, who can be part of his life. It's like magic, but real. It's not magic, Maria said. It's just people choosing to be good to each other. And sometimes, if we're lucky, we get to see the results of those choices. Tyler graduated 2 years later with honors, a degree in civil engineering, and a job offer from a firm that specialized in sustainable infrastructure projects in developing countries. His first assignment would be in Guatemala, helping to design and implement solar-powered water systems for remote villages. At his graduation, Maria was there again, this time with Patricia and several other staff members from the admissions office. Tyler had become something of a legend among the staff. The student who had overcome the odds, who had turned his second-chance admission into a scholarship, into honors, into a career that would make a real difference. When Tyler crossed the stage to receive his diploma, Maria found herself crying. She thought about that night on the highway, how frightened she'd been, how hopeless. She thought about this young man who had stopped in the rain, who had refused to leave until her car was fixed, who had driven away without even telling her his name. And she thought about how one act of kindness, one choice to help a stranger, had rippled outward in ways neither of them could have predicted. Tyler had gotten his education. Maria had gotten her career. Their families had found each other. All because someone chose to stop on a rainy highway instead of driving past. After the ceremony, Tyler found Maria in the crowd. He was still wearing his cap and gown, his face glowing with happiness. "Thank you for coming," he said, pulling her into a hug. "I wouldn't have missed it for the world. I'm so proud of you, Tyler. I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have," Maria said firmly. "You earned every bit of this. But I'm honored to have been part of your journey." "You're more than part of the journey," Tyler said. "You're family now. You and the kids. That's how I think of you." Maria hugged him again, too emotional to speak. That evening, there was a small party at Tyler's family's house. It was modest, cramped with too many people, but full of love and celebration. Maria's kids played in the backyard with Tyler's siblings. The adults shared food and stories. Tyler's mother cornered Maria in the kitchen at one point. "I need to tell you something," she said in Spanish. When Tyler was going through his admissions appeals, when he kept getting rejected, I saw my son losing hope. I saw him starting to believe that maybe college wasn't for people like us. Maybe he should just accept working construction like his father. Not that there's anything wrong with that work, but it wasn't Tyler's dream. She wiped her eyes. And then suddenly he got in. And then he got the scholarship. And his whole life changed. I prayed for a miracle and God sent me to you. You were a miracle." "No," Maria said gently. "Your son was the miracle. He was the one who stopped to help me. He started all of this. You were miracles for each other," Tyler's mother said. "That's how the best miracles work." Later, as Maria drove home with Diego and Sophia sleeping in the back seat, she thought about that phrase. Miracles for each other. Maybe that was true. Maybe that's what kindness really was. Not grand gestures or dramatic rescues, but simple choices to help when help was needed. And maybe, if we were very lucky, those choices came back to us in unexpected ways. Maria pulled into her apartment complex's parking lot and sat for a moment, looking at her old Honda Civic. It was still running, somehow, despite its age and all the miles. She patted the dashboard affectionately. "Thank you for breaking down that night," she whispered. "Look at everything that happened because of you." Then she woke up her kids, and they went inside together, a small family that had been helped by a stranger who became a friend, in a story that proved that sometimes the best things in life come from the moments when we choose to be kind. Thank you for watching this story all the way to the end. It really means a lot. Please leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We share stories like this every week about real kindness and the unexpected ways it comes back to us. See you in the next one.